What's going on, Reality Hackers? It is Michael, CEO of Reality Hacker, and I'm excited today to talk to you about probably one of the most talked about and widely experienced phenomena in the awakening community. And we're going to talk about number pairs, right? 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, 13, 5, 5, 5, 2, 2, 2, 4, 4, 4, you name it, we're going to talk about it. But before we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about my journey so that you can understand how I came to the conclusions that I came to and ultimately really understand what these mean for you. So my journey, as most of you know, started in Christianity. I was an active Christian pastor, multiple churches, multiple denominations, the whole 9 yards, traveled the whole country, lived in 25 different states over the course of 5 years, doing my thing, right? Seeing people raised from the dead, seeing the blind given sight, the whole 9 yards, yada, 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 in an attempt to find God, right? And, you know, it drove me and it drove me and it drove me. And, you know, there was this fundamental perception that I was separate from God that existed, right? It was fundamentally a piece of my belief system that Michael, the entity, was separate from God, despite the fact that ultimately Paul even said, Christ is my life. I have no life of my own, not I that live, but Christ that lives in me. It's amazing how we've taken scripture to fit our own needs and our own, desires to control how thought is interpreted. But we'll get into that a little bit later. You know, and so I spent my journey, a lot of my journey was spent eagerly searching. And during this time, there were, not to my knowledge, any number, synchronicities or things of that nature. But after my awakening experience, my first awakening experience, I don't think there is an awakening that you just, you never change and come back. But after my first awakening experience, I started seeing this a lot more. And it was definitely in a time when I was exploring new ground, when I was exploring beliefs and patterns that were just very foreign to me, right? Growing up, I grew up in foster homes, abused sexually, emotionally, mentally, physically, the whole 9 yards. So this idea that I was loved, I was enough, I was okay, I was adequate, like these were so foreign. And after my initial awakening experience, a lot of these number patterns started following. It almost seems like moments of the felt sense of this experience, of experiencing myself to be whole, to be loved, right? That's been my journey, right? Personally, understanding that I am infinitely loved, that I am all the love that there is, and that nothing that has happened to me will ever take that away or can take that away, right? I lay my life down and I pull it back up, right? Just like Jesus said. And so, for about a good 9 months after my initial awakening experience, I was waking up every morning at 3:33 on the dot. I'd light a candle, I opened up my journal, and I would just start writing pages and pages and pages of material, of which I do not have access to anymore. I wish I did, but I don't. And, so that was my first experience, was 3:33 and ultimately 11:11. Now, I did spend a lot of time looking up the meanings of these things, right? Looking for any objective meaning to these concepts, only to realize as I went deeper in Neville's work that ultimately there is no meaning until it is assigned. And so on the preface to where I am now was looking at numbers and patterns as guides rather than confirmations. And now where I am is I look at numbers and I notice what I do is when I see number patterns, and I don't do it all the time because I see them so much, it's absolutely ridiculous. But when I do decide to do this, right, what I'm doing is I'm examining what feeling state I'm in as I'm glancing at those numbers. And usually, most of the time, there are deep felt senses of enoughness, of wholeness, of completeness, of I'm on the right track, of I'm where I need to be, right? Those feelings are often followed by the synchronicities, whether it's seeing the 11:11s, the 3:33s. I also think that at the end of the day, they happen at, around significant events. They happen before significant events happen and they happen after. And it's not even that they happen because they're happening all the time, whether we're aware of them or not. It's more so that I think that we are becoming more and more aware of the interconnectedness of all that is. That is the awakening process. It is becoming aware of the interconnectedness of all that is. And numbers and patterns at this point become confirmations of what already is rather than prophecies of what is to come, because I no longer look at the universe as things that are being created. I look at it as though everything is already created, right? So this is not some unfolding of what has not happened yet. Rather, I'm walking into something that quite literally has already happened in consciousness, which is the only reality, and the world is echoing that, right? So ultimately, when it comes to numbers, what you have to begin to understand is that, A, there's no meaning until it's assigned, right? There's no meaning behind anything until we assign the meaning. And the other cool thing about this is that because there's no meaning until we assign meaning, we can quite literally hack ourselves, hack our bodies into leveraging these experiences of this phenomena as ways to anchor into states of consciousness, right? So going back to earlier, when we see these things, you may not always be in a positive state of consciousness, but what we can do is we can assign meaning in such a way that seeing these numbers ultimately becomes an invitation for us to move deeper into our beingness. Because quite frankly, right, when it comes to manifesting, we are really just working at living from that highest vibrational frequency. So if we can create a bunch of anchor points in the world around us to get to a point where we're subconsciously being invited into our beingness, into that space of expansiveness, if we can really rig that system into place, all of a sudden, I'm literally setting up an environment where I'm constantly activating that highest vibrational frequency, which in turn draws all things to myself. So when it comes to numbers, it's really important that you don't look at them. I mean, you can if you want to. I'm not here to tell you what you can and cannot do. But it's really important that you don't look at them as prophecies, right? Of, oh, well, you know, this number means that something good's about to happen, you know, because at the end of the day, most of the time that becomes an experience of perpetuity, right? It becomes an experience of, well, I see the numbers, something's going to happen, then I'm looking for something good to happen, and then nothing good happens, and maybe something good happens, but I don't necessarily know. And it's like, why not use that experience of phenomena of seeing those numbers as an opportunity to make sure that I'm aligned, right? To make sure that I am diving deep into the expansiveness of my consciousness so that I can experience the highest degree of reality possible. And on top of that, right, why don't I use these numbers as an invitation to go back to my core, because that's it. That's all we're doing here. We're approaching this process of getting back to that expansive state of consciousness in as many different ways as possible. We want to leverage the experiences that we're having to get ourselves back into that highest vibrational state, because at the end of the day, that's where our greatest service comes from. That's where our greatest endeavors come from, our greatest ambitions, our greatest bridges of incidents, right? Everything that we want is in that frequency. So if we're going to continue to see numbers, which we do, let's use them as anchor points to invite us back into our beingness. Let's not use them as signs of what's to come. Let's use them as either invitations to enter into beingness or confirmations of the expansiveness that I am already in, because that is where I want to be. I want to be persisting in that state of expansive awareness. I want to be persisting in that space in my body where there is no resistance. Right? So this is my experience with numbers. I hope that this has helped you reconcile some of your own truths. I love getting to share this stuff with you. If you have any comments, feedback, go ahead and like, share, comment, turn on the notification bell. If you want to dive into the law of attraction in a way you never have before, download the free ebook Unified that's in the description below, as well as some other goodies that we've got for you. You're loved, you're amazing, you're appreciated, you're awesome, you're adequate, you're lovely, you're worthy. And be sure to look out for our Feeling is the Secret retreat coming January 20th and 21st, 2023. You're amazing. You are all imagination. And we'll talk to you soon.